Okay, let's look at question 3. So what we have here is a scenario where we have been given the standard cost of making a product, and this is typically how you would do this. You're given kind of all the production costs because, right, the standard cost is really the cost of making the item, the recognized cost of an item. So here, the recognized standard costs are all the costs in the factory that go into making the item. They all have to go in. And these, of course, are budgeted. Of course, these are. And then we can make tweaks to them and adjustments to them via those journals, via over absorption and under absorption, right? Based on what we now come to know at the end. So technically, this would be our kind of sales minus cost of sales to get our gross profit. Everything that comes after this is all non-production. So almost think of a warehouse, and then where all the production is or a factory, sorry, where all the production is taking place, and then you have the sort of the offices with the warehouse when all the goods are finished and they come and sit here, and then we sell them. So, but you still have salaries and sort of expenses to do with the sales that are just not production. So we still have to take those into consideration when talking about profit. Right, so here we have our standard costs, 5 plus 8 plus 3 plus 4, and that gives us a standard cost of £20. Right, so we have a £20 standard cost here. Okay, so let's look at that. It tells us that we can sell this thing here at £40. So we're selling each of these units at £40. And the question here is, how many did we sell? It tells us that we sold 180 items. So in effect, you're selling 180 items, and you'll get your, I'll just do that here, 40 times 180, right? So in terms of getting this 180, we know it's, well, we know anyway, because it tells us that you start off with 10 items at the beginning of the period. I'm only doing this the long route. I haven't even done it the short route. I'm sure I could get away with that. So you started with 10, you made 175, so it means you have 5 units left. So you now, I mean, this is just, I guess, the good thing here is everything here costs £20. You know, really, I could have just said 40, and I could have just done from a contribution point of view. I mean, it's all the same thing ultimately. I mean, because this 180 is made up of 10 plus 175 minus 5. That's opening inventory. If I produced 175, if I sold 180, started with 10, made 175, it means I have closing inventory of 5. Right, and so you do this, if you like, and then you now have this kind of yeah. Here we have 7,200, and this looks like 3,600. Now, the cautious thing here, again, is just this, now to start looking through what's going on. Just look step by step as to what's happening. So I'm told that the fixed production overheads in March was actually 800. Fixed production overheads was actually 800. So the question here is, what have I put in? I mean, so there's no discussion about the variable production overhead, so there's no variance there. That's fine. But they're just asking me to focus on the fixed production overhead was 800. So I've put in £4 for everything I've produced. And it says that in March I made 175 units. So every time I made a unit, if you like, I put in £4. So that's £4 times 175. So £4 times 175. Remember, I'm in the factory, is 700. Right, that's 700. So I've put through so far 700, but they're telling me the actual cost is 800. So right now I have under absorbed. This is what I've done. So because I've put this in, I have under absorbed. I need to put in an extra 100, put a journal through. I think my previous Q quick quiz 2 had a question of under absorption and over absorption. So I have some additional costs of £100, if you like, to put through. If you like, as a result, I've only put through 700, so I need to put through another 100. So in effect, this full cost becomes 3,700 because the fixed element is not complete. So I now have a fixed cost of 3,700, and when I now deduct technically all of this, well, that's the full cost now because I've dealt with the absorption. I didn't put enough, so I now have 7,200 minus 3,700, giving me 3,500. Okay, great stuff. Then it tells me that I have some fixed selling expenses, which are pretty much to do with this part of the business. This is not to do with production of 1,000. And then I have some variable selling expenses as well, which are to do with again, this part of the business here. It's not to do with production. So it's really important to be clear that this was to do with the production, where I was just finding my gross profit, if you like. So this bit here, and everything else comes afterwards. So it tells me it's 15% of sales value, and my sales value was 7,200. So 15% times 7,000, 15% times 7,200 is 1080. So when I now have these two together, that's it really, I think. Yes, and so I now have 3,500 minus 1,000 minus 1,800. Sorry, 1 minus 1,080 gives me a profit of 1,420. So 3,500, which is my gross profit, minus these two costs gives me 1,420. Okay, great. So the answer there is A. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, I thought this was a nice question because marginal costing has a neatness to it, because with marginal costing, remember, we're really saying what's selling price minus variable costs. Really, that's your marginal cost. And once you know the marginal cost per unit, you're done. You see, because then you can, all you have to do is multiply it by the number of units that actually left the building. So it says here, they manufacture these bicycles. The selling price is 135. The unit variable cost is 85. That's all I'm interested in. Variable, the contribution. Remember this, our definition of contribution, which was selling price minus variable costs. I'm literally just wanting to understand how much am I making per unit before I think about fixed costs. I use the example of Yerzan, who wanted his rent. Imagine my rent was £1,000. I know I now need to sell. I'm literally keeping £50 on every bicycle. And imagine my rent was 1,000. I need to sell 200 bicycles. So first of all, pay Yerzan before I could think about profit. So marginal costing, kind of the concept anyway, makes us think about what's going on within the organization, covering our fixed costs first, and then talking about profit. So it's just the internal management accounting of a management process of trying to meet our fixed costs first. So you have £50 there. Right. So here you have £50, and it tells us that you started off with 20 bicycles at the beginning of the month. You made 240. You sold a bunch, and you have 10 left. So you must have sold 250, right? Opening plus production minus closing gives you, if you like, your. So technically, you see this concept of cost of sales. It's the same concept all the time. If you like, opening plus purchasing minus closing gives you cost of sales, the cost of what you've sold, how many things actually left your building. 250 bicycles actually left your building. So you've made £50 on each bicycle. So therefore, on 250 bicycles, it's 50 times 250. 50, yeah, I mean, I don't know why I can't do that in my head. I should be able to. It's 12,500. So your answer there is D, right? 12,500 there. Cool. Yeah. I think that's about it. I'm not sure if there's anything else tricky there that's a bit odd, but go for that. Always find that. I mean, this is we didn't talk. Remember, we talked about break even some time ago. Break even is what I just did there. Break even is the fixed costs divided by the contribution. And the contribution is on per unit, and the contribution is selling price minus variable costs. Focusing just on that simple bit. Cool.